Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we're taking a look at the skill leaks that we had released just a few days ago, which are primarily focused around the brand new character Yuka, but also there are some other skills for other decks that we assume are going to be getting support in the next upcoming box, which should be out within the next week or so. So very exciting stuff. So we're going to jump straight in with our first Yuka skills. So Yuka's first skill is just adding the boss monster to the deck, which is just going to be the home run hitter. Nothing too exciting about that. The second skill, this is arguably the good skill, is typically whenever characters come out, they have one like actual playable good skill, and then a bunch of like filler skills, which are just there to kind of take up space. Yuka's good skill is this one. So it can be activated from turn 2 onwards if all of the monsters in your constructed deck are fire, dragon, or warrior monsters. So this is very important because Yuka's deck does have one dragon in it. The rest of them are all fire warriors, but we do obviously need to be able to play dragons to use that. Taking a look, there's not really a lot we can do with the fact that we can play fire dragons. Like, we could play Volcano Attack Dragon and maybe play something like Secret Order in there, but it doesn't really seem worth it. You could also play Phoenix Dragon, which is actually like not bad because we could get back her dragon boss monster, but it's currently limit 1, which means it's not really applicable because we're not going to play a Phoenix Dragon over Pot of Greed or Compulsory Evacuation Device. So not really a lot we can do with that, but we can reveal one monster with 2000 defense or one Feather of Spirit Stadium in our hand and add up to 2 player 39 home run hitter, Feather of Spirit Stadium, or normal monsters from your deck to your hand. Then you can send up to 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard. Notice this says up to. If you sent 2 cards, level 4 monsters on your field inflict piercing battle damage to the opponent during this turn. So there's quite a lot to break down here. First off, we have to reveal a monster that has 2000 defense. That is primarily going to be all of our boss monsters. Or we can reveal our field spell, which is also okay. Then we can add up to 2 copies of one of our boss monsters, which is our 2500 attack, 2000 defense warrior monster, our field spell, or normal monsters. Notably, those normal monsters have to be fire dragons or fire warriors. So going through, Home Run Hitter is, it's a bit of a wonky card, but its stats are quite nice. 2500, 2000 are really good stats to have. And its effect is, if we have a face-up Feather of Spirit Stadium on the field, we can send 2 face-up level 4 fire attribute monsters from your field to the graveyard. This card gains 2500 attack, so up to 5000. With the field spell, because we'll need it out, that's going to be an extra 400, so that's going to be 5400. Okay, that's not bad. But this turn you can only attack with this card, and getting this card piercing is also not going to be easy, especially since we are restricted into only playing fire monsters, so we can't just use like a piercing samurai, for example. So this boss is not the best, but it has okay stats. For the most part, you're usually just going to use this as a vanilla, and that is fine. The field spell itself is quite interesting. It boosts the turn player's fire monsters. So during our turn, our fire monsters get a 400 boost. During our opponent's turn, their fire monsters get a 400 boost. This is fine, but in the mirror, this could get a little bit annoying. Then we have the next big playmaker of the deck, player 99 Grand Slam Dragon. So level 8, 2000 attack, 2000 defense, not the greatest attack stat. We can shuffle 3 fire attribute monsters from your graveyard into the deck to special summon a home run hitter from your graveyard face up to the field. Then it gains 2000 attack. So that's actually not awful. The issue is we just have to make sure that we have home run hitter in the graveyard, and we need to make sure our graveyard is full of fire monsters. Now, the skill does do a lot of the heavy lifting here, because if we just have the Grand Slam Dragon, we can search out a home run hitter and then any other card, and then we can immediately send them both to the graveyard, or just one of them to the graveyard. So if we're able to set up our graveyard with just a bunch of fire monsters, we can search 2 cards, including the home run hitter, then send the home run hitter to the graveyard. Then ideally, we would immediately use Grand Slam's Dragon's effect to shuffle cards back, bring back our boss monster, and then we have a 25 and a 4000, which is actually pretty good. The issue is that's about as far as it goes, and if we want to get that piercing on our normal monsters, we also have to discard 2 cards, which means we're not plussing off of the skill. Because if you think about it, the skill does give you a +1. We reveal 1 card, we search 2 cards, we discard 1 or 2 cards. So if we discard 2 and we get the piercing, we're not plussing at all. If we discard just 1, we are technically plussing, but we don't get the piercing. But the rest of the cards from this archetype that we presumably will be getting do kind of smooth things out a little bit. So first up we have Dododo second. If we have a Fever of Spirit Stadium on the field, we can pay 500 life points. This turn, this face-up card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a fire attribute monster in attack position. So this is just a nicely statted card with 1400 defense, and we can get out either Grand Slam or Home Run Hitter using Dododo. So actually pretty good, basically counts as a discount, so it's sort of like a +1 if you squint. Then there's Go 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 Umpire. Shuffle a Spirit Stadium from your graveyard into the deck. Special summon a fire attribute normal monster with 400 defense. Now, notably, all of the fire warriors do have that 400 defense. There are 3 of them in total, which means there will be 12 cards maximum in the deck. We just have to get one of those into the graveyard. We can bring one of them back. But this turn we can only attack with fire. That doesn't matter because we're locked into it anyway from the skill. And then we'll just show off our biggest vanilla. This is Zubababata, 1500 attack, 400 defense, which means with the field spell, this becomes 19, and this is going to be the best piercer that we're going to have access to. So either we could try and get out like 3 Zubababata and then give them all piercing with the skill, or we're going to have like 2 bosses and the 1 Zubababata, and he's just going to have piercing on his own, which is still okay. But by using these 2 cards that can get effectively discounts on our plays, it does mean the skill becomes a little bit interesting, right? Because the skill itself is going to give us a +1. If we do use one of our cards that get us a discount on our boss monster, that means we're only actually going to have to use 1 card from our hand. So that's the 1 card as tribute, so either the Dododo or the Umpire. Then we're going to have the Grand Slam Dragon itself. We're going to need the field spell, so that's going to be a 3rd card from hand. And that on its own, those 3 cards individually are going to immediately get us our Grand Slam Dragon at 44 and our home run at 29, which is pretty good. So with a 4th card, we could get another normal summon, let's say our Zubabar. And then all of a sudden, with a 4-card hand, we get a 2900 attack home run hitter, we get a 4400 attack Grand Slam Dragon, and we get a 1900 piercing Zubababata if we discard that extra card. So this is actually not too bad, because this is only 4 cards to basically get a full field. If we discount the batter getting piercing, because that means effectively spending an extra card, that means we'd have 2 cards left over because the skill already plussed us. So that's actually not bad. If we're able to make a realistically decent board and still have 2 cards left over for like trap cards, assuming we even get any of the good traps, there could be something there. So now let's talk about some of the other cards we could be getting. One of them is Captain 39 Home Plate Pinch Hitter. I'm not sure if we're going to get this card just because the skills that we've got don't really work very well with him. But this is 2500 attack, 2000 defense, which is quite nice. Shuffle 3 level 4 fire action monsters when you go into the deck. This card gains 1500 attack until the end of this turn. So that goes up to 4000 with the field spell, 44. That's not bad. Then if your life points are 1000 or lower, you can make 1 face-up monster on the opponent's field lose 3000 attack until the end of his turn. This is a really strong effect. It's just not going to happen very often because we have to be at 1000 or lower. And the deck doesn't really have any good like life point modulation, so it's a little bit awkward. Now, with the skill, I would make the argument that the Grand Slam Dragon plus the Home Run Hitter are probably better. But if we didn't have the skill, Home Plate Pinch Hitter is just better a lot of the time, I think. So it's just easier to use. You have to jump through so many hoops. Another card we might get is Tag Up Magic Sacrifice Force. So we can send 1 face-up fire attribute monster from your field to the graveyard, to special summon a level 8 fire attribute monster from your hand face-up to your field. So this basically doesn't give us any kind of discount. We use the spell as 1 tribute, effectively. We use 1 fire monster, and then we get to summon the level 8. So this doesn't really count as a discount. There's no real benefit to using it, except for the fact that we get to destroy a spell trap on the opponent's field. And if we only have 1 normal summonable monster, this will let us get out our monster a little bit easier. So it's not the best card in the world. Realistically, I don't think this would see play, which is why I expected this to be tied into a skill, like a skill that let us create this from outside of our deck, but it doesn't seem it's going to be that way. Another card is Bobbleheader, which lets us add 2 Favor Spirit Stadium and or Tag Up Magic Sacrifice Force from our graveyard to our hand. Again, I don't think this would see play, because we have infinite access to our stadium anyway, and then Tag Up Magic Sacrifice Force probably wouldn't see play anyway, but this could possibly come out. So now we're going to go and take a look at some of the other skills. So first off, we're going to skip straight over to the other Yuka skills, because I think there's not really much to say about them. We'll go and talk about the Yuhi skill a little bit after. But Yuka skill 3, reveal 1 earth or fire monster in your hand, and shuffle 1 card from your hand into the deck, and add Pinch Hopper, or 1 fire warrior normal monster with 400 defense from your deck to your hand. So this is not a very good skill. This doesn't plus us. We have to reveal 1 card from our hand, then shuffle a card away, then grab a card out so we go even on advantage. We can get Pinch Hopper, which is like funny because it's like a pun, but also it's an insect card, which insects aren't really in the best spot right now. I don't think this is going to really see any play, but this could be quite funny. This could be a meme skill, and you could maybe do something with insects with it, but I'm not expecting literally anything. And then Yuka skill 4, send 2 face-up level 4 fire warrior monsters from your field to the graveyard. Set 1 player 39 home run hitter from your deck or graveyard to your field. Its position can be changed. So, this isn't very good. Effectively, we're just tribute summoning from the deck or graveyard. So that is technically a +1. But because the deck has 2 different cards that can get a discount on our summon anyway, this isn't always going to feel like a +1. This is going to feel like breaking even. If this card only sacrificed 1 monster, I think it would actually be okay. But since it does require 2, I'm not really a big fan of it. It doesn't feel like it's particularly good like card economy wise. The only real good thing is that this won't trigger any trap cards, like your opponent can't compulse in response to this, they can't use writing, but that is not really that big of a boon. And then we have the Yuhi skill, and this skill is interesting, but doesn't really spark confidence that it's actually going to be a really good skill. So it can be activated from turn 2 onwards if all of the monsters in your constructed deck are Earth machines. Now this is annoying because machine typically is played as like a pile deck. You want to play all the good machines from all the different attributes. Limiting it to just Earth is extremely restrictive. There aren't that many really good Earth machines. I understand why they've done it, because I want you to play the joint tech stuff, but unfortunately it's not very good. Reveal one level 7 monster in your hand. Send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this is primarily here to fuel effects like Joint Tech Rex. Then you can add one monster from your graveyard to your hand, but only once per duel. So one good thing is, you can take back any monster. So you could take back Ancient Gear Golem, you could take back Joint Tech Rex, you could take back a low-level monster like Craft the Drone. There's so many things you can take back with this. But it's only once per duel. So you're only getting that really cool plus of taking any card once, which is, I mean, it's still good, but it's not great, right? And then for the rest of this turn, you can normal summon or set Joint Tech Rex and Joint Tech Stegosaurus with one less tribute. So if we consider getting out a boss monster cheaper as sort of like a plus, again, if you kind of squint at it, this is kind of plussing you every single turn and gets you a +2 once, which is not awful, right? It's not anything fantastic, but it's still okay. But what is Joint Tech Stegosaurus? Well, here he is. 2500 attack, really nice. 1500 defense, also not a bad defense stat. Not the best, but it's okay. We can send up to 3 Earth attribute machine type monsters from your hand to the graveyard. Not a big fan of discarding from the hand if we're honest. Destroy face-up monsters with 1600 or less defense on your opponent's field equal to the number of monsters sent to the graveyard to meet this requirement. So this can, theoretically, wipe out the entire opponent's board, which is okay. The thing is, it's a very steep cost to do so, and your opponent's monsters all have to have 1600 less defense. Now, there are some good things about this. So, for example, it doesn't matter what level the monster is, right? We can pop level 9 monsters as long as they have 1600 less defense. Now, there's not going to be many, but there will be a couple, right? One other thing to note about this is maximum monsters in maximum mode do not have defense points, so you can't pop them. But there are a decent amount of fusion monsters that we can pop with this. For example, Galactiara Eve, we could pop Charmy Witch, we could pop Ultima Witch. The main issue we're going to have with this is that, again, a lot of the cards we'd want to be popping are going to have really high defense. So think like Galactica Oblivion, Eternal Galactica Oblivion, Plasma, Plora, all of the Dark Galaxy bosses. A lot of these cards just have a really high defense value. So the way that we're going to try and make good use of this is to lower their defense. Unfortunately, we don't have many ways to do that right now. One of them is Joint Tech Tinosaurus. Now, I don't think this is going to be a particularly good card to combine, just because Tinosaurus requires a discard from the hand to use. Stegosaurus also requires discards to use. So already we're seeing a bit of a clash there. They're both obviously boss monsters. We can get a discount on the Stego thanks to the skill, but it's not going to give us a discount on the Tinosaurus. This is just a few too many cards to make this work. But we could theoretically reduce something's defense by 2000, and then that's just an easy pop for Stegosaurus. So getting this done all in one turn is a bit much, but if we can set one of these up on a previous turn, maybe you could do something. I think a really good card that could come out that would really, really help this deck is Steel Soldier Gale Winnery. So this card has pretty good stats, 1200, 1000 defense. It is an Earth machine, which means you can play it with the skill. Requirement none, effect toss a coin. If the result is head, all face-up monsters on your field gain 500 attack to the end of this turn. Okay, pretty good, AoE buff. If the result is tails, you can make one face-up monster on your opponent's field lose 800 attack and defense until the end of this turn. Now that effect is just fantastic, right? You could play this generically in anything because it's just that good, which is the one reason I don't think it's going to be in the next box. I think this is probably going to be like selection box bait, realistically. But being able to reduce their defense means Stegosaurus can pop them. Being able to reduce their attack means that our guys can attack over them. So this would be a fantastic addition to this deck. But again, I don't think this is going to come out. I just thought we'd mention it because I think this would be the perfect fit for this deck. But yeah, my closing thoughts on this is it's a cool idea. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to do enough. If we get really, really lucky, and we're super coping here, if we get Joint Tech Hero and Joint Tech Fighter, the fusion, this could actually be pretty good. But I think if we were going to get either of those cards, they would be mentioned in the skill. Since they're not mentioned, I don't think we're going to get them. But if we did, fantastic. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. And then we get to our last couple of skills. So first things first, we'll talk about the No Idea Gavin/Yuka. So it can be activated before your normal draw, twice per duel, if your constructed deck contains at most one warrior monster with 2500 defense. So right now, The only warrior monsters 2500 defense are all of Gavin's bosses, so that's kind of why this is like a Gavin/Yuka. Place 1 warrior returning alive from your deck or graveyard on top of your deck, and draw 1 extra card for this normal draw. So this is not actually awful. It's just I don't know why you would play this over most other things. Theoretically, this could let you use warrior returning alive 3 turns in a game. This also does give you some plussing, which is like also not too bad, right? Overall, I'm not super fond of this, but like, you never know. And then we get to the real spice. This is the Yuamu skill. So it can be activated from turn 2 onwards if all of the monsters in your constructed deck are level 7 or lower dragon type monsters. Blue Fang Burst Dragon or Red Boot Boost Dragon. Reveal 1 Blue Fang Burst Dragon or 1 Red Boot Boost Dragon in your hand, then add 1 Booster Wyvern from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, add 1 Dragon's Boost Fusion, Dragon's Burst Fusion, or Striping Wyvern from your deck to your hand, each card only once per duel. So first things first, we're locked into just dragons. Next up, our bosses have to only be Blue Fang and Red Boot, nothing too surprising there. So if we have one of those bosses in our hand, we can reveal it to our opponent, then we can immediately get a Booster Wyvern from deck or graveyard. Now because of this, we might only want to play 1 copy of Booster Wyvern because we have infinite access to it, but it is going to make it difficult if you want to make multiple fusions in a single turn, so maybe we end up playing more than 1. I'm not entirely sure. But Booster Wyvern is actually quite a cool monster. Its stats aren't anything to write home about, but if we have Bluetooth Burst Dragon or Red Boot Boost Dragon face up on the field during the main phase that we normal or special summon this card, we can burn our opponent for 600, and that is going to be important. The other reason this guy is so important is because he is the fusion material for all of our fusions, so very, very, very important there. But the other skill is that we can send 1 card from our hand to the graveyard to add Boost or Burst Fusion or Striping Wyvern from our deck to our hand, but each card only once per duel. Now notably, this says from deck to hand, not from graveyard, so if we end up milling those cards, or if we draw them early, we will lose the ability to use the skill to search them. But what are these cards that we are searching? Well, first things first, Dragon's Burst Fusion. That says fusion summon by sending face-up dragon type monsters from your field to the graveyard as material. Then if you sent Bluetooth Burst Dragon to the graveyard with this effect, you can make 1 face-up monster on your opponent's field lose 1500 attack until the end of this turn. So notably, we won't have our Bluetooth anymore. We can get it back technically, but it's a little bit awkward. So potentially we could use this just to get some big damage in, or again, we could get back that Bluetooth Dragon and pop it that way. The other fusion is Dragon's Boost Fusion, and this one is a lot stronger in my opinion. So once again, we can fuse using dragons on the field. Then if we sent Red Boot Boost Dragon to the graveyard by this effect, we can send the top 7 cards of our deck to the graveyard. Then if you sent a card from deck to graveyard, you can send the top 7 cards of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. So we're going to mill ourselves for 7, then we're going to mill our opponent for 7. Now that's pretty interesting, but why would we want to do that? The reason why is because we have Red Boot Enhanced Boost Dragon, and this will be one of our new boss monsters. So it's made using Boot Boost Dragon and Booster Wyvern. We can choose up to 9 monsters in any graveyards, inflict damage to the opponent equal to the number of chosen monsters times 200, and this card gains attack equal to the number of monsters times 200. Then shuffle the chosen monsters into the owner's deck. So this means we could either mill ourselves out by a ton, put a load of cards back in our deck to refill our deck and so we can redraw into those cards, or we can start messing with our opponent's graveyard. We could either leave it milled and then hope that they deck out, or we can start shuffling our opponent's monsters back into their deck if those are cards that they want to be in the graveyard. So it's a bit multifaceted in how we can make use of this card. But this card's really cool because if we do choose 9 monsters, we can burn for 1800. And if we summon out our Booster Wyvern, we can burn for 600. That's 2400. And this is made using Red Boot Boost Dragon, so we could use that effect and then burn for another 700, which is 3100 burn damage before we've even gone to battle phase. So assuming we do have the graveyard set up, assuming we've been able to mill enough, we could just burn our opponent for over half their life, then gain 1800 attack, putting us up to 4700 attack, and then potentially just kill our opponent in one go. So this card really strong and really shouldn't be underestimated. The other fusion monster is Bluetooth Enhanced Burst Dragon. I'm not as big of a fan of this, but it's still pretty good. So we can send 1 monster from your field to the graveyard. So it could be itself, it could be another monster. We get to destroy 1 face-up card on either field. Now having to be face-up isn't the best, but it's still fine. Popping a card is still popping a card. Then, if you sent a monster whose original level is 7 or higher to the graveyard, which again could be itself, to meet the requirement, you can special summon a Bluetooth Burst Fang from your graveyard face up to your field. So if we used our fusion spell, we could reduce the attack of our opponent's monster. If we then send a different level 7 monster, we could theoretically bring back Bluetooth Burst and pop that monster, and then we'd have a 3025. If we pop this itself, we do get to pop a face-up card, then we could bring back Blue Fang and pop, ideally, another card. And that's okay, but that's a lot of cards used to just effectively pop 2 cards on the field. I'm not sure if that's necessarily worth it, but this is still a pretty cool card nonetheless. And the last card that we can search with our skill is Striping Wyverns. So you can send the top 2 cards of your deck and this face-up card from your field to the graveyard, special summon a Bluetooth Burst Dragon or Red Boot Boost Dragon from your hand to your field in face-up defense position. Then you can add a Dragon's Burst Fusion or Dragon's Boost Fusion from your graveyard. So ideally you want to mill those cards, that's probably the best way to get them in there. Then we can get them back. We're effectively summoning out a 2 tribute monster for 1, because we're just getting rid of this Striping Wyvern. That means we're getting a +1 off of that, as well as his effect adding back one of the fusion cards, which is like another +1. So depending on how you think of it, this is sort of a +2, which is actually really, really strong. So definitely one of the better cards to grab. And then the final card I wanted to mention is DBF Rebuilder, because this card is kind of like a worse Striping Wyvern in a way. But during the main phase this card was normal special summoned, you can reveal a Bluetooth or a Red Boot in your hand, set a Dragon's Burst or Dragon's Boost Fusion from your graveyard in your spell and trap card zone. This is probably going to come out because in a lot of ways, it's just kind of a worse Striping Wyvern. So I thought I'd mention it. I think there's quite a high likelihood this comes out, so it is worth just kind of touching on. But overall, I think this is definitely the strongest skill we've seen here. The skill is really good. It gives us a +1 every turn. It lets us search out 3 different cards, all of them only once per duel, but still really, really good. The deck has potential massive burn damage and can also just reach these ridiculous attack. It has good removal as well. This deck just seems to do it all. So I think the Yuamu deck, the high-tech dragons, are definitely going to be the strongest deck to come out. But until we actually see all of the cards that are coming out, it's a little bit hard to tell. But my impression after reading all of these skills is that the Yuamu skill is going to be the best one. But thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.